scheduled Middlebury Selectboard meeting of January 23rd. The first item is the approval of the agenda with some adjustments as available on our little printouts here. 3D is removed. The pre-treatment grants are not available at this time. Item 5, we're going to hear from Judy Wigger-Gross on the tree committee in lieu of number 13. So that comes off and gets moved ahead. And Hulbert postponed pending further research.
What is?
Number 12. Oh, and this is regarding the property up, yes, on Forest Lane. Man, Forest Lane. Holy cow. A lot of stuff going on in there. Would someone like to move the agenda with those modifications?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please indicate with an aye or a thumbs up.
Aye.
Heather? Thank you. It's unanimous. Moving forward to the approval of the consent agenda. In here, we've got the minutes of our last meeting, minutes from the infrastructure and personnel committees, no liquor or tobacco or outside consumption permits. As mentioned, no grant agreements for the town's part in administering the state wastewater pretreatment grants, the certificate of highway mileage, a letter of support for Tri-Valley Transit, and the town manager's report, which includes the Ilsley Library Impact Report, which was lovely. And the images that they had, the quotes in the front of it, I thought were fantastic.
I'll be abstaining for the minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Oh, there we go. Moved and seconded. Yes, Brian. Did you have a comment or are you just waiting to approve?
I was going to second it.
Oh, perfect.
Wow.
So without any indication that there's further comment, all those in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Very good. Noting Farhad's abstention from the minutes of our last meeting. The next item on the agenda is the citizen comment period. This is an opportunity for community members to address the board on any item which is not on the agenda. Is anyone here for citizen comment? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Judy's up next, so I will close citizen comment and move ahead to our agenda placeholder item 5. Judy, welcome aboard. She's got to rejoin as an attendee. Very good. There you are. You are muted, however.
You're muted. We know you're excited, but you're muted.
We can't hear you, Judy. You're muted.
Sorry.
No worries. There we go. Welcome aboard.
I just want to take 2 minutes or 1 minute and 30 seconds to say by signing the 2 Arbor Day proclamations, you are supporting our application to renew our Tree City USA designation for another year, for a 6th year, as a matter of fact. And so I just want to thank you for that.
Fantastic. And it looks like we're also designating Arbor Day perpetually into the future as a recognized date in Middlebury. Is that correct?
Correct. It will be the first Friday of the month of May, but we will actually be doing our celebratory events on that Saturday because it's
Sure.
a hope that more people come.
Yeah, that sounds great. I don't think that there's any action here beyond the signatures. Is there a motion required to go to that signature? What does it say under
I
14?
don't think there is. If you could just.
There is one here for proclaiming the day. And so,
I think that's so much,
Oh,
so much more gravitas.
and I think we should. So if anyone wants to jump to number 13 and read the motion, that would be appreciated.
Number 13. Okay, I move to proclaim the first Friday in May 2024 as Arbor Day in town of Middlebury.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it's unanimous. Fantastic. Very good. Thank you so much, Judy.
thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
If I can get the ones from Kathleen, that would be great, and then I can send our application off.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
All right, cruising right along. Feels like we're still on schedule. And now we've got appointments. Hey, next up is the appointment of the Means of a trustee to the Means Woods Board. We received all the applications at our last meeting.
Correct. Leon Smith is also an applicant. I don't think he was here at the last meeting when others introduced themselves, so I didn't know if you.
Yeah,
wanted
no,
to
of course, we,
Some come up, but
yeah, absolutely, please do.
I'll be brief, as most of you know me. I live adjacent to Means Woods. I've been helping out in the last few years to, take care of it, cleaning it up, doing some of it just kind of under the radar. I've been attending the meetings and am keenly aware of the issues that Means Woods currently faces, particularly with the development coming up next to it, and some of the restrictions, particularly with what the deed. It's a very unique property. I hope you had an opportunity to look into the deed and those things. I just here to lend a hand in any way that I can, particularly.
Really appreciate that. What are your thoughts on the challenges of the increased likely usage of the woods from putting 200 units next to it?
I think it's a great opportunity. I think that after speaking with the folks from Summit Property Management and understanding what they were planning on doing and the scope of what they are planning, particularly directly adjacent, it will work. It just needs some, a little bit of tailoring.
Perfect. Any other questions? I think we're good. Thank you very much. Kathleen brought to our attention in the packet that the deed says that we should have among the 3 town appointees, a conservationist, an educator, and a public-spirited citizen. I do not know, sadly, the current composition of this board and how we should consider the people who are currently on it.
So I think what we're looking for is a public-spirited
The what?
applicant, a public-spirited applicant. As the other two, as we've looking at the qualifications of the people that are currently on the board, Cindy Hill as a conservationist and John Murphy as an educator.
Okay.
And we only have one position to fill.
Correct.
And we have 5 overly,
In publicly
this is,
spirited applicants.
we
Yes, it's either feast or famine.
can't win on this one,
No.
I mean, the town will win.
This is a embarrassment of riches, as they say.
We typically don't have a problem like this. And
Yes.
when we're doing most of the committees and we're been able to shuffle people around and make alternates, but
Yeah.
this is brutal.
Agreed.
I'm abstaining.
Ridiculous. When the going gets tough, Dan steps back. I don't know about that.
And
Are there thoughts, motions to be made?
So I wasn't there at the last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
But you read the
And I
minutes?
see Leon here,
Uh-huh.
that's all I can say.
I would like to recommend Amanda. I thought that she spoke really clearly and eloquently about her experience working with native species and just her enthusiasm about spending time on the trails and being in that space a lot. So she would be my pick.
I must say I was impressed with her endurance. She stayed until we went into executive session at our last meeting, which was above and beyond the call of presenting herself as a nominee. Other discussion?
You're all looking at me?
At whomever. We've got two folks on the TV here. Who are appropriately mute, given the situation.
Well, Brian sits on the committee.
Oh, that's right. He said that he's abstaining.
So we have a motion, a nomination, and we have to have a second if we're going to vote on this.
Can I?
Yeah, do it.
You- that was
That's
right.
appropriate.
So
Okay.
if it can be voted up or down, so.
Yes.
I move to appoint Amanda Werner to the current vacant position on the Means Woods Boards of Trustees for the terms of the 1969 deeds for Means Woods.
Somebody would need a second.
Yes. We would need a second, or the motion dies.
It dies if we don't second it.
I'll second.
Okay,
There we go. I'll second.
I'll give it to Heather. Very good. Further discussion on Amanda? Seeing none. All those in favor? Would you care to talk about your work on the commission or what's coming up?
Well, great group of people. One of the issues coming up, well, we have a new associate director who's formerly very much involved with town affairs as opposed to county affairs,
Yes,
but she's learning fast.
Great.
And she's been in charge of Better Middlebury Partnership, which is a pretty complicated organization. Because Fred Kinney, who's been managing this operation for quite a long time, has been planning his retirement. And so
Okay.
there's a succession plan sort of in place, if not formalized. So it is a very interesting environment, and I think all of you get copies of communications from the ACEDC, and if you don't, please let me know, because there are a lot of opportunities for outreach in the business community, not just in Middlebury, but all over the county.
how is the board comprised? Does every municipality have a seat?
We are short a couple. We're on the town meeting agenda in Cornwall because they do not have a direct representative at this point. And there's maybe Orwell doesn't, I'm not sure. But we're pretty well represented from Bridport to Bristol,
Nice.
and some very talented people and there's a lot of opportunity. The state really has the overarching responsibility for this sort of economic development. Does everybody know what we do? Basically, at the end of the day, you've got a bank that has a senior position in a loan a second senior position. You've got Vermont Economic Development Authority, which is that layer below the bank, higher risk, but very supportive. And then there's us. We're sort of filling in the equity gap that a borrower might, take that last breath and get over the financial hump and get a really good, because under financing a project is the worst thing that can.
Sure. 'Cause-
You're always going to run into problems.
And it's always, yeah, your money's usually lost if you don't have enough of
So
it.
is overfinancing, but underfinancing
Uh-huh.
can be deadly.
Yeah.
So, and if there's any communication that any of you feel that we haven't been doing, because we haven't been, Fred did a really nice presentation here,
Mhm.
and very comprehensive. But if there's anything that you want from me in terms of communication, please feel free to let me know. You've all got my email address.
I'm just gonna knock on your door, Richard.
Say that again.
I said, I'm just gonna knock on your door.
Why not? Just watch out for that 100-foot pine tree that's now
Oh,
mostly scattered in my front yard.
yikes. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move
I'll
to,
move to reappoint Rich Kerr as the town of Middlebury's representative to the Madison County Economic Development Corporation.
Thanks, Brian.
Second.
Izzy seconds. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye. Look at that. Well done, sir.
The football comments almost took you out of that one,
Wait a minute.
though.
All right. Moving along, it looks like it's time to welcome Emily, and there she is already.
Here. So first up on the agenda, we are seeking approval for an amendment to our engineering agreement with Aldrich and Elliott for the Mary Milligan stormwater project that we're working on. Because of the soils and the site limitations, we have to prove to the state that we can't provide infiltration. So it's just a hoop that they made us jump through. And so this amendment will allow Aldrich and Elliott to submit the feasibility analysis, which will prove that. And then it also includes the permitting, which we left out of the previous agreement with them. So it just brings it to the finish line essentially.
I hate to delay things, and I'm sorry that I wasn't at the infrastructure meeting where this was probably discussed in greater detail. I'm guessing infiltration is slowing water down so it can become groundwater? No. What's infiltration?
So infiltration infiltrates, so it goes back down into the groundwater.
Yeah.
What we're proposing does essentially slow the water down. It's underground chambers.
Okay.
That will catch, it'd be like an underground pond, and then it slowly releases the water back into the channel. So it greatly reduces the amount of scour and that sort of issue that you run into with stormwater. But infiltration is the best actual treatment.
Sure.
Our soils don't blend to it very well.
I've heard that the Addison clay is not great for absorbing a lot of water.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is like a dry well you have in your house.
Good question.
Emily, is it like a dry well?
But it'll be wet.
Right, but I mean, they call it a dry well. I don't know why.
I think because a dry well gets water from above,
It's
not.
in chambers. It sort of looks like culverts that will, they're empty when it's not a rain event, but it allows a void underneath the parking lot that will fill up with the water and then slowly release it.
And it keeps the water out of our stormwater system, or some portion of it out of our.
So the one that is on the Mary Hogan parking lot side of it
Yes.
will be releasing it into a culvert that's still connected to our stormwater
Gotcha.
system. The one on skating rink side would be releasing it into the wetland that flows, sort of runs behind the school.
Sure.
The other piece that we're looking at doing a filter strip that would treat the skate park is essentially just sort of like a grassland swale to capture that flow. And then we're looking at doing a small bioretention to capture the area for the tennis courts.
Cool.
So I think, in that one, I'd like to have some on the surface just for the visual aspect, for the educational purposes. So I think that will sort of, that'll hit that target, that will.
Neat. Other questions?
It's all magic.
Yeah. Okay.
One motion.
Sure.
I move to approve the proposed amendment number 1 from Aldrich and Elliott to the Mary Hogan Stormwater Engineering Agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye. Unanimous. All right. Moving on.
Moving on, so starting back in the flooding this summer, I've had a few conversations with the property owner at 52 Aussie Road, which is one of the access points to reach the berm that was originally installed, I think, back in the 70s, but then more recently updated as part of the flood resiliency project a few years back, and we had to do make further efforts there to reinforce the berm this past summer. That property owner is interested in selling and has offered it as a property buyout. There are different programs offering the buyout. This would likely be a best fit with the FEMA special flood, the FEMA hazard mitigation grant, which offers the federal portion of it pays for 75%, and then they require the purchaser to pay the other 25%. But right now, the state is actually picking up that portion of it. So there wouldn't be a cost for the purchase to the town. I've been working with Andrew LaRue over at Regional Planning, and he did submit it to the state. They've secured funding for the Brownfields Phase 1 analysis. The history on the site, it's been used, it's not technically a salvage yard, it's an impound area, so there are vehicles moving in and out of it. So I personally have not ever seen material on the surface of the soils, but just to protect the town, I think a Phase 1 analysis should be done. And then Regional Planning has also submitted to put the town in for the umbrella protection, similar to what we're doing at the Maverick gas station on that property. So it's a completely voluntary program. There's no pressure. The one thing I will say, if something is found during the study, the town can still walk away from the purchase. We don't know, until it's all accepted and the conversation is started, we don't really know if there is something found where the funding for that cleanup would come from. I wouldn't want to put the town in the position of having that obligation on us. There is brownfield money at the state level for cleanup, but I think until the conversations at that level, we don't know.
And so if this happens, the town becomes the owner of the property, even though it's not our money going
The
in?
town would become the owner with the understanding that it would never get developed again. It could be used, it could just be used as our town-owned access point to be able to do flood work.
Mhm.
It could be used as a park that you're allowed to allow vehicles to park on it as long as you're not paving areas. And things like, it could be like a kayak launch or a fishing spot or something like that.
Sure.
There are possibilities like that if we decided to open it up to the public.
The Google satellite view has quite a few vehicles visible on it down there.
He's been working hard to clean it up. The last time I was there were just a handful of vehicles left. He spent most of the summer and fall hauling vehicles off the site.
We had to move it before they did the work.
Gotcha.
How big is the lot?
1.7 acres.
How many?
1.7 acres.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none. Is there a motion attached to this?
I move to authorize the Public Works Department to submit a statement of voluntary participation to the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program for the property at 52 Aussie Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye. Oh, thank you, Farhad. Unanimous. Very good.
No, it's not unanimous.
It's not unanimous. Sorry. I thought I just hadn't looked up while you were indicating. All those opposed? Heather?
I'm abstaining.
Very good. And abstentions. No comment? All right.
What kind of comment do you want?
I don't know. A comment as to why you're abstaining, I guess.
I just can't get behind the idea, so.
Okay. Fair enough. So noted. Onward to electric vehicle charging.
So we circled back to the electric vehicle charger location conversation. We started it back in November. I worked with Ross from the Energy Committee to sort of hone in locations a little bit better. And the grant is not available yet. So we are trying to find spots specifically for the level 3 chargers, which are the really fast ones.
Mhm.
We only have one down in the Mill Street parking lot at this time. So for commuters coming Rutland to Burlington, I believe that's the only charger with a pretty good radius. So we're trying to find some other spots to put them, and we narrowed it down to 5 locations, which I think are in the packet. After discussion with infrastructure committee, we sort of prioritized the locations just to make it a little bit easier for the energy committee to go after grant funding when grants become available, which Ross thinks will be the end of the month, which is
Wow. Okay. Soon.
soon. And so the general consensus was that Mill Street has its limitations, but it's a good location and has, because there's already chargers there, it works. We can add another one very easily without a lot of thought or infrastructure additions or improvements. So there might be a limiting factor with the grant if it's asking you to really expand locations, then obviously they wouldn't prioritize that one. But that did seem like the first and easiest spot to go after. The other one sparked more conversation. I think Seymour Street, just beyond the fire station, just to the sort of north of the fire station, that has a few spots where they are perpendicular parking, which is ideal, but there's actually no green space there, which is where you would put the chargers. So we would have to do a little more engineering and construction, but location-wise, it's a good spot because it gets commuters, centralized to town, easy walking and whatnot.
Right.
So that one, as long as the cost isn't prohibitive for trying to get a charger installed there, that's on 3-phase power already, so there's not that limitation. The other one that people were most interested in was the Mill Street parking lot at the school, the Mary Hogan parking lot at the school. The very northern end of it doesn't get heavily utilized for school parking, and that is still within a couple blocks access to town, or people can use it during sporting events, things of that nature, while they go to the rec center for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that one, there's not 3-phase right there, but there's 3-phase on Port Street, and there's 3-phase at the more southern entrance to Mary Hogan. And we believe that the grant will allow for, it will include funding to get 3-phase within 0.1 miles of the location that you choose. So those would both fall within that measure. And then the fourth one discussed was the Creek Road Rec Center. There's already a level 2 charger there, and that parking lot does get heavily utilized during games and sporting events, but other times of the day it's not very used at all. So in terms of people just, if it's a commuter, it could be easy for them because there wouldn't be conflict with other vehicles being there. It could also potentially support the neighborhoods that are right there if there are electric vehicles within those properties. It's obviously further away from the commerce part of Middlebury, so it likely wouldn't be drawing people into downtown
Yeah.
And then the fifth one that we had originally looked at was the Amtrak rail platform, and that got voted off the list.
Good. I think that's all appropriate. My concern with Mill Street is that just a mobility concern, right? Not only do we already have the one high-speed charger there, but it's a steep climb out of there and not particularly pedestrian friendly for anyone with mobility issues.
I agree with that completely. I said the same thing with the infrastructure meeting.
I'm sorry, I wasn't there. Okay. So we don't know what the grant is, and we don't know if it prioritizes new locations over expansions at this point.
What's that? Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The grant's not out yet, so.
And if it does prioritize new locations, we will go with the Seymour or the Mary Hogan rather than the Mill Street expansion.
Correct. Yep.
Seymour looks more.
Mary Hogan, this is actually in the parking lot though.
Yeah.
I feel like that's terrible. It's already a hot mess multiple times a day. I mean, it's
It
a
would be on the
disaster.
northern end, the
Yeah.
very northern end of the parking lot. The general consensus was that those first couple spots are not heavily utilized.
I think the issue is at 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. Just the total traffic through there is beyond capacity.
It's more like 7:50 to 8:30 and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
2:50 to 3:30. I mean,
Right.
and that's if there's not any after hours things. I'm just throwing that out there. I've spent in total, like, I feel like I've spent months of my life just in the Mary Hogan parking lot at this point. So, and you run the risk of people getting blocked in, because even if people aren't parking in those first couple of spots, like, you can't get out of that lot. Like, you get into that lot and then you do not leave at certain times of the day. Like, you just live there. So I'm just throwing that out there as part of the discussion. I would caution using that for anything else.
I think that's a good reason to think of Seymour as preferable to Mary Hogan if we're looking at additional rather than expansion sites.
The disadvantage of Seymour, or where Seymour may not be able to come to fruition, is the extra cost to install a charger there. Because there's not green space, we'd have to reconfigure the parking there. There's maybe some additional costs that a grant might not cover to put a charger there, in which case that spot may become cost prohibitive depending on the grant.
Gotcha.
So we're trying to come up with, another location, and, it's really only 5 days, end of August through middle of June, twice a day where it's an issue getting in and out of that. During summertime, it's not an issue. On the weekends, it's not an issue. So I still think the Mary Hogan site has some potential, even with those drawbacks, because it wouldn't have, I don't think, the infrastructure, excuse me, the downside on the infrastructure costs on that one. But again, we'll just have to see what the grant will allow us to do.
Yeah. Do we own the parking lot at Memorial Sports Center or no?
We do.
We do. But is it the same
That's
thing
right,
where
the
everything would have to go in new? The cost would be.
The
It's hard to get to.
It's not hard to get.
Memorial Sports Center isn't within the proximity to the Tree Tower.
Oh, okay.
We could put a level 2 charger over there, but then you have a car parked there for 6 hours during
Right.
hockey games and
Right.
shooting, and I don't think that'll make anybody happy.
And what's the charge time on a level 3?
20 minutes, half hour.
Okay.
Very
So
good.
if they have to sit there and they can't get out of Mill Street, that's not tragic. Bring a book.
Wow.
I will say I was there on Sunday in the Memorial Sports Center parking lot on Sunday for a hockey game against Essex, and there was a, I'm sorry, I'm gonna draw a blank on the name. Tesla
Mhm.
parked behind me for a hockey game, So they're in the future, depending on cost to get three-phase power to that parking lot, it may be worth considering.
Mhm.
Other comments and questions?
I have a question.
Bing?
When we install these level 3 chargers, is there going to be, there's a fee to use them? Yes?
Yeah, I think the ones down at Mill Street, you have to have a special app. I think there's different formats. You can, some do it by credit card, some do it by an app.
And does GMP, as the provider of the electricity, do they do the transactions?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Do you want a motion?
I'd love a motion.
I move to support the proposed list of triage locations for the future installation of town coordinated electric vehicle charging infrastructure sites.
That's a fantastic motion. Yeah.
Second. I did a good job.
Yeah, really good. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
And we got Heather this time, but no Brian. Oh, there he is. Very good. Going with unanimous. Okay. Moving on.
Next, we are looking for an authorization to transfer funds from the meter, the valve exercising. I forget what fund it is, the valve maintenance fund that last year we used to rent a valve exercising machine to come up and exercise the water line valves.
Right.
Due to staffing and just needs right now, it would be ideal if we could transfer what's remaining in that account, $10,000, over to the water meter fund. The town, our meters are 20 plus years old. Many of them have a much shorter lifespan than that, depending on how many gallons they're dealing with. And we've also had an additional issue of not getting endpoint service at all locations throughout town. For the company that we've been switching our endpoints over to, there's an AT&T or a Verizon option, but there are still locations that you don't get service with either. So after a lot of research, Bill and John from the water department found this other meter that they were able to try out in a few locations, and so far it has worked phenomenally. And so they're asking for this transfer so that we can do a slightly larger pilot to make sure it's really the direction we want to go, and then we just pick up away at it each year.
And so it's still a cellular data transmission. It just has a better antenna on it or something?
It's a totally different system.
Okay.
The meters themselves are different, and it's also a different endpoint transmitter. I don't entirely understand it all, but they have installed a few in places that they haven't been able to get service, and it worked. And the support team for this company has done really good. They have a 20-year lifespan, the meters themselves do, whereas ours, I think ours are like 6 years or something to that effect. So they have a much longer lifespan, and they don't have all of the annual costs that come with some of our technology for the endpoints and things of that nature. So I think there's an initial investment that would be required, but I think in the long run, it would be a cost savings.
Neat. I don't know if people listening or here have used our water tracking website, but it is really fantastic and provides ionwater.com, and it can provide alerts if you've got a leak and say, like, if you have any water usage continuously for however many hours to let you know. And I think it's fantastic. It seems to make a ton of sense to improve our water monitoring range and use this money for that. Other comments and questions?
I'll move to authorize the proposed transfer of $10,000 in the FY 24 Public Works budget for the rental of a valve maintenance machine to instead support the water meter upgrade program.
Second.
Excellent. Moved and seconded. Seeing no appetite for further comment. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye. Yeah, I think we've got it all. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Few quick updates. Holiday Road Pump Station is wrapped up for the season. They finally got all the right components for the generator, so we're in good shape over there. I submitted, I feel like I've seen you since then. I submitted the FEMA submittal for the August event. That was due the day after Christmas. So still, we don't have like our reimbursement guarantees or anything yet. We're still working it all out, but hopefully, I know for a few of the categories, FEMA is working really hard to try to roll the funds back as efficiently and quickly as possible. They're getting a lot of pressure from their upper management. So hopefully we'll start seeing money coming back in to support some of those costs that we had to put out in July and August. And then Pump Station 3, the work over there was completed last week, 2 weeks ago. So I think we're in good shape. I'll have to, obviously, it snowed right after they got out of there. So it's all mulched and seeded. It'll just be a matter of keeping our eye on it for erosion through the winter and early spring. But I think we should be in good shape over there.
Great. Any comments, questions? Cool. You can't get away that easy.
No. So on the flood topic, we applied for funding to support further efforts in the Middlebury River. And the Emergency Watershed Protection Program if they are willing to support restoration efforts to be done to the flood resiliency wall just downstream of Bristol Bridge. And they also approved funding for the bottom of the slope at number 12 Gristmill Road. They did not approve the funding that we asked for number 30 Gristmill Road, which carries it further downstream. We did do work. We haven't done anything on the wall after the storm events. I had SLR come out and give us a proposal for what they would recommend. That cost came in at $276, 77, right here. $286,250. And then I used the initial funding or the initial quote from Casella that they gave us for doing the work in front of 12 Gristmill, which they had quoted us around $106,000 for that effort, and it was for 150-foot length at that time. So because we can't really go beyond the property boundaries, it's less than 150 feet further that we need to include. I will say when I was out there in December, on the December 17th storm, the water was to the top of the stone that Casella had installed. I don't know if it overtopped it. I didn't see it that day. But clearly, like, there's that potential, and once it overtops, it's just at the slope again. So I think I left the full amount of funding for the Casella effort in there, and also added a little bit to the cost, assuming that mobilization, because that was already built into the original estimate, knowing that they were doing multiple spots along the river. So I increased it slightly to 115,000, and then tacked on what SLR thought the construction cost for flood wall repairs would be. And of that,
the emergency watershed program, it's about a 75% reimbursement. So the cost breakout, if we went with those full cost numbers, the total cost is $401,250. There is some cost built into SLRs for permitting, which I think they had 10,000 in there for. I could easily do that myself, so we could remove some of those costs from it. It did have construction oversight for $20,000, and I think some of that can be reimbursed at a higher level than the 75%, but you don't quite know until we start the conversation. So all said, if we did it, with the dollar amount that I've scoped out, it would be the emergency watershed project would be paying about $300,000 of the cost, and the town would be on the hook for the other $100,000.
Minus the 10 for permitting that we could do in kind.
Right.
And-
The permit.
Yeah. And if we don't do this and we've got an event that's a little bit more than the mid-December storm, it's likely that we're losing property as well as the efforts thus far.
Right.
Just making sure I've got the context clear in my head.
Yeah, I think Kathy was with me when we met with EWP. They really want to see the actual house perched on the cliff before they're going to fund it.
Uh-huh.
And it takes about 6 to 8 months for the funding to roll out.
Brilliant.
So you might miss the window.
Yeah, perfect.
So the number 30 Gristmill Road, the home is set too far back. There's a barn and a garage that are quite close.
Yep.
But because they're not the residences, they don't get counted towards the funding. But they like the flood wall clearly protects a number of properties, and so they were okay with that investment. And then 12 Gristmill, they were okay with.
I have a question that maybe you can't answer, but building structures to try to prevent water damage from anything is almost impossible because water is smarter and more powerful than anything we could do. But this will be our third or fourth effort in this river to put it back together after significant damage. Are we getting this engineered close enough that maybe we can prevent these or not? I know it's a hard question. We thought we had done it with 2 years ago when we did the flood resiliency project. We thought it was licked. I mean, obviously it's a good thing we had it then, or we might not have had East Middlebury. But we're getting our butts kicked for hundreds of thousands of dollars every couple times a year now.
I think that's a loaded question, Dan.
Yes.
So the efforts in that river go back to like the storms of 1927. Like back, I've seen, like part of the flood wall that's built over there goes back to an Army Corps project that was in the 20s. And then I found paperwork from the 70s. And then there's 80s efforts. So I think in the time frame that folks on the select board here are present, it probably is a handful of efforts made in that river. I will say the section at 12 Gristmill did not get addressed during the flood resiliency project for whatever reason. And I think the flood wall got extended, which potentially points flow at that slope, and because those soils are so vulnerable, they did have reinforcement. I believe it was from an effort in the 80s that has since washed away. And so it's really to restabilize the toe of that slope. And there is an incredible floodplain across the stream from that slope, but the river has been wanting to push towards their slope instead of utilizing the floodplain. And so the efforts that we put in this summer kicked the river back out and over to the floodplain, and it seemed like it held. It, it stayed in that main channel as opposed to using that slope as its main path.
Okay, this is just become,
Can I comment?
it helps. It's just, I don't think we're ever going to win on this river, so oh. We just have to have money budgeted for catastrophes. Fortunately, we get a lot of help with grants, so.
Sure.
Can I comment, Andy?
Of course.
I will just say that, I think that the money on the flood resiliency project was very well spent because in all 3 flooding events, that river did not top the bank and, result in evacuations in Middlebury.
Right.
And that did happen during, Tropical Storm Irene. That flood wall that needs repair,
Our item 11, we've got Zeke here. And I don't see any reason for doing the budget beforehand. Is there a reason to? Can we change our order?
Yes, one of your members has asked that we continue the budget discussion post haste.
Oh, la-di-da, let's do it. Let's get on with the budget discussion. All right, very well done.
Wow.
Yeah, so on to number 9, the finalization of the fiscal year 25 town general fund budget. This is Kathleen's item.
Okay, so taking up where we left off at our last meeting, what I have proposed in the budget and the warning is adding a transfer from the Cross Street Bridge Fund Reserve, which has $3.1 million in it now, to cover the debt service on the police department adaptive reuse building in the amount of $133,450, which would reduce the tax rate impact from 4.34 cents to 2.99 cents, or 3.46%.
Yeah.
Of a tax rate increase.
It's a tough year when that sounds really, really good, but that does sound
It's all about
really,
pennies.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what I have to present to you.
Okay.
Overall, the budget as proposed is $13,609,827, with the amount to be raised by taxes of $8,753,310 and $1,040,700 to be allocated from local option tax receipts in excess of debt service and maintenance requirements of the Cross Street Bridge.
Great.
Happy to answer any questions you have on the line item.
Brian.
I would just say that Kathleen's proposal tracks with our historic use of the local option tax funds, and it still leaves us ample money in the coffers for any proposed or future needs at this point. But it's not an overuse of it either, given that we don't know what's going to happen with a number of other things. So it's a nice, I felt that it was a really good middle of the road, and I think that the town does need to raise our taxes a little bit to make sure that we're not sucking everything out of the local option tax fund.
Sure. Thanks, Brian. Other comments or questions? Like we've been through this 3 or 4 times now? Yeah. Yeah,
Motion?
pretty somber. Yeah, sure.
I move to approve the FY25 general fund budget for presentation to the voters at the upcoming 2024 town meeting.
Seconded by Farhad. All those in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, it's all good. 7 for 7. Very good. Well, since we're here, we may as well go in order. Finalizing the town meeting warning. This is the warning that will be presented at the Middlebury Union High School auditorium during our town meeting on Monday, March 4th at 7 p.m. We will ask the voters to act upon Articles 1 through 5 and discuss Articles 6 through 8 on this warning. The warning notifies voters that Tuesday, March 5th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. they may vote on Articles 6, 7, and 8 at the Recreation Center on Creek Road by Australian ballot. The warning has been updated to reflect the general fund budget, which was just approved for presentation and includes the transfer of funds from the Cross Street Bridge Fund Reserve. There are 2 bond votes in this town meeting. Article 6, Phase 5 of the South Street project, and Article 7, the complete reconstruction of Bakery Lane. The bond votes are necessary to maximize competitiveness for grant funding and low-interest subsidized loans. It said here in the agenda that Brian was going to present that, but I just charged right ahead. Any discussion on the warning as provided by the town manager? All good? Heather? Brian? All right, let's adopt it.
Motion. I move to approve the 2024 town.
Oh, sorry.
I haven't out of meeting that good.
Thanks for attending.
He's gotta go.
Yes. I move to approve the 2024 town meeting warning as presented.
Second. Oh, you can have it.
Very good. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Very good. 6 out of 6. All right. Zeke.
Just a brief note.
Oh, sorry.
Almost Zeke. This is just a reset. I'm wondering if we should have a couple of select board meeting members go with me to scope out the town meeting space.
That makes a lot of sense.
Uh,
There was some issues last year with sound and location of people, and
Yeah,
I think it would
yeah,
make sense
yeah.
to preview that a little bit beforehand.
and not the day of maybe the week
Before,
before,
yeah.
so that we can work out any kinks with MCTV. And
Who other than
technology.
me would like to do this? Very good. We got 3 people in a row here that are glad
We
to
will
show up.
overpower the high school.
Excellent. Good call.
No, it's good to.
Yeah.
take a look.
Great. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay, Zeke, I will
We've made it.
stop.
The amount of work Kathleen has done on my behalf, our behalf for this project, I will wait as long as she'd like.
very good.
We feel the
So
same.
long as I'm done. now.
Exactly, that is fair. Yeah,
Welcome back.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of it's been a while for this group, I guess. We've been spending most of my time with the DRB in the last 3 or 4 months. So I figured our agenda placement has sort of shifted over the last month or so, but I'm ostensibly here to ask for your support for an application we're submitting next Friday.
Great.
For a low-income housing tax credit project. So this sort of phase 2 of housing. But I figured I'd give an update where we stand now.
Yeah.
So we received DRB preliminary approval in November, got Jen's memo the week after Christmas. So we're still sort of planning out next steps. And that was sort of a marker for us. We do a certain level of detail of plan. And then once we have that from the town in hand, we sort of move towards the next level of detailed plan to come back for final, which that approval is what lets us pull a building permit and move on. Complicated project. The DRB was great. I think we were all on the same page. There were really no major, it took 3 meetings, but a lot of just stormwater engineering that needed to be worked out and understood, obviously, while Emily was dealing with current.
Right. Yeah, it was busy times.
Up to her neck in it, quite literally. So,
Huh.
but there were no real major disagreements and tweaks to be made. And that, I think, speaks to, it's been great to work with David and Jen in
Right.
the months leading up to the time of the DRB. So have our DRB approval for preliminary. The first 2 phases of housing construction sort of have paths forward. Again, through grants with you all, we've got this $8 million award to build missing middle homes. We're working towards a grant agreement and sort of final design of those right now. And then the second phase of housing construction will be a mixed income rental building,
Okay.
which we're calling phase 2, but the timing may be simultaneous or
That's
otherwise.
the larger building closer to.
I didn't bring a presentation.
fine.
It
I
ended
ca-
up being
mostly
set
remember.
back off the
Okay.
road. It's sort of on the western side. But it's 35 unit building. 21 would be income restricted
Yeah.
units, rent restricted units and available at a broad range of area median incomes, but all sort of below 60% of area median income. And then 14, which would be a modest market rent component to it. Those don't get built without a large amount of state and federal subsidy.
Sure.
The biggest sort of core subsidy of which is the low income housing tax credit project. That's administered by the Vermont Housing Finance Agency. They award, there's a competitive round once a year for what they call ceiling or 9% credits. These are the ones that can really fund a big percentage of a rental project. 3 or 4 projects a year get these across the entire state. We think we've got one. There's a whole scoring process that adds some objectivity, but there's also a little bit of subjectivity. It's going to be one of the highest scoring projects in the state, if for no other reason than because of the work Jen and the planning department's done, getting the NDA,
Great.
transit oriented, in the right place that the town wants to see. Those are, I am deep in the hole of getting that application together. It's 1 million attachments and tabs and studies. And one of the big ones that they always look at is local and regional support. And sort of the big 3 letters of support are from the Regional Planning Commission, the Economic Development Corp, and the local legislative body, and that's all you. So I'm here seeking your approval for a letter of support that I think Kathleen probably shared, that will go along with Adams and Fred's as the sort of local and regional support. And again, it's just to apply for this tax credit. This is nothing, we're not usurping the DRB and approving the building or anything. We're just talking about the town's support for us submitting an application for a project that would be cited here.
Nice. If everything goes super smoothly and all of the dollars show up on time, there's the question,
Sometime
right?
between last year and 2026.
Yeah. Okay.
We have always been shooting for breaking ground this spring or summer, and I'll back up a little bit here too. This spring or summer on the infrastructure component that's going to
Roads.
support these first 2 phases.
Okay.
Right. So this project specifically, we're shooting for spring 2025. We're further behind in the permitting process than we thought, so we're not on track for a spring or an early summer groundbreaking on the infrastructure, but we're still hoping for a late summer, early fall, which will put us in a good position for that. There's a lot of steps that still need to get done on the financing side, on the grant agreement side, and on the planning side, and that'll be my next time back here with you all. We had started, Kathleen and I discussed, one of the things we need to do together is a development agreement, because a lot of what we're going to be building is town infrastructure that we'll be dedicating back, and there could be conditions on, what infrastructure needs to be improved as we go forward. And that the planning and the DPW, it's the design and everything, but with you all obviously is what property we were going to be building on behalf of the town and what sort of financial arrangements we make. So that's the next thing I'd love to, if I have a minute, preview a little bit for of you all tonight. But to answer the question is, we hope to be breaking ground this fall. whether the phase one for sale homes end up going simultaneously with breaking ground next spring with this project that I'm here asking for your support on, or whether we're able to advance those prior. It just depends on the permitting timeline, financing timeline.
If you break ground next spring, what's the time frame for the completion?
So for this, again, I'll try to compartmentalize this. We're really talking about three things right now. We're talking about the home ownership, homes.
Yeah.
We're talking about this rental project, and we're talking about the infrastructure to support all three. So those are to support both of those. So those are like three phases of separately financed things. So for this, the multifamily rental building that I'm seeking your support tonight, if we broke ground in the spring of 2025, we usually bring those online within a year. Yep. But the other phase of housing, the for sale, middle income, affordable for sales, those will go really quickly once we get the infrastructure in and are pouring concrete. So ideally next spring and early summer we'd be in a position again. And I know John's here and he's writing down every word, but that's the goal. Yeah. So the infrastructure piece, right? The only update is, we spent the last 18 months, really the last year, applying for every available grant to build infrastructure. I would come to you, I would ask for letters of support for those. As a refresher, we've secured $1.25 in a community development block grant. $1 million is going to go to infrastructure. $250,000 is going to go to this same rental project. $750,000 community revitalization and recovery program. That was an ARPA funded CRRP. $175,000 in an ACCD program called the Community Partnerships for Neighborhood Development. We're just together with Kathleen finalizing the grant agreement on that one. And so that's over $2 million. That infrastructure for the entire site is about $7 million. And you'll probably remember I started and said, this is one-time money. We're going to apply for every piece of infrastructure, grant we can possibly get so that we don't have to pass along the infrastructure cost. We pass along as little as possible the infrastructure costs to what we're trying to do is maintain affordable housing. Mm-hmm. So we've raised about $2 million. So now we're started thinking of trying to break up the infrastructure build out into smaller phases than that moonshot. And so we've sort of one framework I'm going to be presenting in the development agreement once I have a chance to review it with Kathleen and Jen first, is how do we give us the most flexibility to be able to build infrastructure in chunks to support the housing that we're ready to build. Yep. Right. And that is sort of the puzzle piece that isn't decided yet. But what I'll sort of present to you all is building that, and I'll try to not only do it in narrative form, but with good graphics and maps and plans so that all makes sense. As we work through with DP, the only other component that's really going to be meaningful in that development agreement as we work through with DPW and planning is there's some offsite infrastructure needs that we've identified that need to be addressed. Just working through how, who's responsible for what and how that works.
Sounds good. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Oh yeah. Okay. Very good. We're all in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, everybody.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I'll be back soon.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. It had been too long.
Oh, shucks. Very good. Item 12 is not ripe. Good night, Richard.
Good night, good night.
Hi, Richard.
12 is not ripe. 13 we took care of at 5, and 14 is just a update.
An update that our friends from the Middlebury Skate Park are not going to be submitting a grant application that they hope to through the Vermont Recreational Trails Program because it really didn't fit what they were trying to do.
There's that little weird trail across the street from the ice rink that kind of goes nowhere. maybe that counts as a recreation trail.
I think they
Okay,
really thought
fair
of
enough.
every particular angle.
yeah. Oops. Okay,
How are they doing with funding?
I don't know.
I think one of the big ones they applied for, they're still waiting to hear on.
And they had a fundraiser and raised
Yeah.
a not insubstantial amount of money.
Selling the
Cool.
decks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, I mean,
those were cool.
it was a
They could
cool
come in,
fundraiser, yeah.
I'd love to hear an update.
Great. Oh, we've lost our audience except for Fred. Hi, Fred. Moving right along and ahead of schedule? How do we do that? Approval of a memorandum of agreement between the Chittenden County RPC, the Addison County RPC, and the town of Middlebury. This is fascinating.
Yes. So the proposed memorandum of understanding between the parties listed by Andy involves collaborative work on the Northwest Vermont Transit-Oriented Development Project, utilizing a federal transit-oriented development RAISE planning grant in the amount of $2.1 million. The Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission is working with competitively selected communities and their regional planning commissions to develop a transit-oriented development TOD plan for Northwest Vermont. This project will develop a comprehensive plan for transit-oriented development for 12 communities across a 5-county region in Northwest Vermont. In conjunction with the transit-oriented development planning, it will also support improved bus services and/or commuter rail to connect economically disadvantaged rural areas to employment opportunities and services in the economic hub of the greater Burlington region and other employment areas.
Cool.
Project deliverables will include a rail market demand study, a transit study, and a governance study. Planning consultants will assist communities to develop the master plans and regulations.
This is very cool. Do we know what other communities are part of this $2.1 million?
The one I know of is Ferrisburg.
Makes sense. Very good. I'm all for getting groups working together in our best interests. Other comments or questions?
Just to note that we're still working out some of the details of the MOU with Addison County Regional Planning Commission, but we're very close to having it
I
worked out.
saw that there's a lot of like choosing the groups of consultants and agreeing on the particulars and trying to figure out who will do the work between these three parties. Yeah, very good. All right. Anyone?
I move to approve the proposed memorandum of agreement between the town of Middlebury, Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, and the Addison County Regional Planning Commission for the upcoming Northwest Vermont Transit-Oriented Development Project.
Second.
Very well done. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
We're all there. Yeah, so it goes. Yeah, and this is almost the last, not quite. This is a lengthy agenda this evening, but moving right through it. I thought we'd be here till 10,
Yeah.
and we're not going to. Next up is item 16, consideration of the State of Vermont's Property Valuation and Review 2023 Equalization Study results. I'll read this. I'll save.
This is where the magic is.
This is where the magic
This is magic.
From Kathleen, the State of Vermont's Division of Property Valuation and Review, the PVR's January 5th, 2024 letter to the Middlebury Selectboard regarding the division's 2023 equalization study indicates that the common level of appraisal of the town's equalized education grant list is at 76.95, below the minimum allowable standard of 85% for the CLA as an indicator of the fair market value of the town. The town's coefficient of dispersion is 18.07, above the state threshold of 20%, which would trigger a required reappraisal. Each year, the state is required to certify the equalized education property values and the coefficient of dispersion for each Vermont town. These figures are used for determining education property tax rates for the next year, determining whether a municipality must undergo reappraisal, and determining taxes that the municipality owes the county. So basically, all of our property values have gone up, but not evenly, such that the values on our grand list no longer represent the fair market value for the properties in our town. And that makes it harder to have the appropriate educational property taxes assessed within our town. And there has previously been penalties paid for towns that fall below the CLA levels. Is that correct?
You're put under a reappraisal order.
An order. Okay. You have to do it by this time.
But since we are in this situation with so many,
Everyone.
not every other
Yeah.
town,
Yeah.
they have decided to, they being the state, has decided to rely on the COD, coefficient of dispersion, rather than the CLA. So
Okay.
although the CLA is below the minimum, we are not going to be under a reappraisal order, but we should anticipate that we will be having a reappraisal in the next few years.
Okay. And that's because our COD is 2% below the 20%. I don't know what a coefficient of dispersal is. My wife, who may be watching, is very sad about that.
I have no idea what that is.
I think it means that overall the property levels went up, but they did not go up evenly. And this is a measure of how unevenly they've gone up.
That makes no sense to me.
Why?
I mean, the common level of appraisal is determined by
Sales.
sales. So I understand that. So right now that, we're only at 76.95% of,
Yeah.
because of significant increases in the prices of sales. So I don't understand what a coefficient of dispersion, how it's determined.
Yeah. And I'm sure there is a fancy
There's a number,
statistics
there's got to be a
formula.
formula.
You want to see it?
Well, so I don't know, I don't know what impact is that going to have on our taxes? How
Well,
is the
right now
CLA?
it's none.
Well, it does have, the CLA is used to set the tax rate.
Right.
So when the
Our property
CLA
values will
goes
be
down,
Increased
our
by
tax
that.
rate goes up.
Right.
Our state education tax rate goes up.
Right.
Right, because they will assess your property as though it was at 100% of CLA, and they do the math. What the dispersal means is that that's like the level of unfairness in this, in that some people are paying more and less because of the unevenness in the rise of values.
So the
across
COD is not used in the calculation. The CLA
Right.
is.
Right, but the COD is a measurement of the unfairness in using the CLA. I think. You okay with that?
So I guess my problem is, and I'll need to get educated, I just don't know why they don't use the grand list. Because you can set a tax
They
rate.
do.
I mean, yeah, well, they use a CLA to determine the tax rate.
That's because we have a statewide property tax. If it was prior to Act 60, no one cared if your CLA was, if your grand list was far below actual property valuations, right? But then Stowe would just never reappraise, and they'd have 1980s property values, and they'd pay 1/10
Or
of
you
the
could
property
have,
tax.
or you could have the town of Middlebury sell only 3 houses in a year, and they sold for
$1 zillion.
$1 zillion.
And
Then
it
I mean,
pushes everything up.
okay, this is far beyond my capabilities right now.
So I always put this on the agenda, so to make you aware of it, but some years we have chosen to appeal when our assessor tells us that we have some grounds for an appeal, but she has not found any grounds for us to appeal.
Okay.
This.
So we are
Determination.
accepting this determination of 76.95. Yeah, grand list. Okay.
Kathleen, can you remind me, how long ago was it that we did our most recent reappraisal?
2019.
Was it really 2019? I feel like it just
Thank you.
happened. All right.
Yeah.
But before then, when was, because there was a
Before
long
then was
because that was before Act 60,
2005
right?
or 2006.
And then Act 60 happened in,
Act 60 happened.
it was a
before
long
that.
time ago. We just hadn't.
Yeah.
Why the big gap?
Well, it can be that property values don't change much and you're close to the CLA, right? If your grand
Mhm.
list price is close to sales prices over
Mhm.
some number of years, then you don't need to reappraise.
So we had the recession of 2008.
Okay,
which
okay,
Put
no,
a
yeah.
dent
Thanks
in the
for reminding
property
me.
value.
Yeah, how broke we all were,
I mean,
yes.
2019, there was a huge bump.
Yep.
Property values.
All right. It looks like there's no action there.
No action.
Moving on to item 17, consideration of the Personnel Committee's recommendation of Water Department staffing.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. I read this in the Infrastructure Committee minutes. Oh, Personnel Committee minutes. Sorry.
Personnel Committee. So we met on January 16th and reviewed the proposed changes from to the Public Works Department with the addition of the water maintainer to a full-time position, change from a part-time position. The proposed change of this role to a full-time position will provide greater support to the town's growing water division responsibilities, including allowing the department to become more proactive with existing and new maintenance issues, as well as improving responsiveness to ongoing water main breaks,
Great.
like we've had
A
many
couple
of
of,
in the last couple
Yeah.
of days. The salary benefit lines of the water division will be increased for FY25 to fund this position, and the existing FY24 budgeted funds and savings within certain line items will cover the cost of this shift for the remainder of the fiscal year.
will this change the budget numbers that we just,
It will not.
okay,
We're one of our requirements, since we haven't filled the halftime position yet this year, we have that savings to put towards a halftime,
And I
half of the year.
expect it's easier to find someone full-time for a position like this than part-time.
Just a vacant position.
This is, we had not filled the halftime position.
For how long?
I think we had someone last summer. It's generally like a summer. So last summer being 2022.
Discussion, questions?
I move to approve the proposed change to the water maintainer 2 position in the Department of Public Works.
Fantastic. Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adding a half-time municipal employee for our water department?
Full-time.
Adding from a half-time to a full-time. That's another half-time.
That's right. And I got that. I can do that math.
Half plus half is full. All right. Did we all approve?
Yes.
Aye. Very good. Thank you. All right. Next item, number 18, agenda placeholder. No, there's nothing in number 18. Approval of check warrants.
I have check warrants,
Very good.
and they look great.
Mm,
We had some big construction bills in there.
Yeah.
So this number may be a little large. Yes. I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $1,423,988.08, consisting of $1,300,727.11 for accounts payable and $123,260.97 for payroll for the period of January 10th, 2024 through January 23, 2024.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Passes unanimously. I'll start with Heather. Any comments or concerns?
I don't have anything, Sandy.
Okay. And I apologize for not catching your vote earlier. that was a total assumption on my part, and I'm sorry about that. Farhad.
No worries.
Okay, thanks.
I'm all good.
Oh, good. Busy.
Now's a great time to familiarize yourself with the budgets that are coming out, right? Select board, school board, make sure that you're going to town meeting informed, making sure that you're showing up. I know that a lot of like school board and us are probably gonna be, asking for your input and also just making sure you understand, what we're putting out there and all the hard work we did this year. So check in, don't show up to town meeting day without an idea of what's been going on.
All right. Let me pass that back over to the other folks. Dan?
Along that lines, yeah, I do have a concern. I'm really concerned about what's going to happen to our property taxes with the school.
Yeah.
It's scary. I said it last week. I think I said it the week before. The potential is catastrophic.
Yeah.
It's unsupportable.
Yeah.
I can't afford it.
Yeah.
And Middlebury will get, our taxes it's outrageous anyway, so.
Sure.
And Kathleen's done all this work to raise it less than 3 cents, and it's potential that it could be 25 or cents or more. I think at least this legislature is at least talking about it. I think the governor mentioned it a lot in his budget speech today.
Yeah. Did you listen to the speech?
No, just caught the highlights.
Lindsay?
I'm not sure do we know if anyone has,
Yes.
We know a petition has been picked up.
okay.
Has it been returned?
The town clerk reported today that Travis Forbes, a former select board member,
Yes.
has put his name in that.
Very good.
All right.
With verified signatures of voters.
Okay,
Fantastic.
and when is the cutoff?
End of the 29th.
Even.
29th.
29th.
5 p.m.
So if anyone else out there is interested, now's the
6
time.
days.
Go to the town clerk, get a petition,
Talk to your friends.
65-ish signatures,
Is it that
Right.
many?
turn it back in. And then all this will be yours.
Someday, all this will be yours.
Yeah, I thought it was less than that.
It was 30 something.
Yeah.
Oh, is it less?
I was thinking
Okay.
it was
35.
35. but
I might
could
be,
wrong.
I
40
wind up
sounded right to me, yeah,
petitioning other towns for funding, so I'm probably confusing something else.
Excellent. Is
All right,
that it?
that's it for me.
I did catch some of the governor's address today, and he called out bail reform. He said, I was mistaken. I thought it was right to give people second and third and fourth chances, and in some situations that has not worked out. And I would like to re-examine what we're doing with bail, which sounded very much like the discussion that we had here in October. And he also called out directly the merchants of Middlebury for their empathy for folks in hardship while suffering directly from it. And I thought it was a very welcome call out to the folks in our town. Yeah, it's good. Anyway, that's all I've got this evening. Do we have a executive session?
We do.
Oh, yay!
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Do we really?
What kind?
We have legal matters
Oh.
and personnel matter.
Oh, legal and personnel matters. Hooray! Fred, thanks for sticking around. And he's gone. And he's gone. We should probably move to go into executive session. Anyone ready to?
Heather's the only one that knows how to do
In
this.
accordance
Oh.
with Vermont's open meeting law requirements, I move that the board find that premature general knowledge of the consideration of personnel and legal matters would clearly place the select board at a substantial disadvantage because the select board risks, don't mess me up, disclosing its strategy if it discusses the personnel and legal matters in public.
There we go. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
I further move that the board enter into executive session to discuss the personnel and legal matters under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes. I'm trying to make it sound exciting, so other people.
All those in
do this.
favor?
You got
I,
me. I'm
Right?
just all
Are
tingled
Dan,
now.
you waiting?
are
with
you in
bated
favor?
breath?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I was talking to Lindsay.
very good. We are all in favor, and